Hey Ben, I know you've been keeping a close eye on PC vendors as they ramp up their supply chain resilience and diversification strategies. So, which players are currently leading the charge in diversifying outside of China, and what steps are they taking?
Yeah, Ishan. So the United States PC market is very concentrated, with the global top six vendor holding more than 90% share there. In 2024, 40% of both Dell and Apple's PC shipments, 33% of HP's, and 20% of Lenovo's were headed to the United States. These vendors are under the most pressure to shift the capacity out of China. Dell and HP especially understand the importance of this, driven by their heavy reliance on the United States market. So they have been working with ODMs on relocating their production sites to countries like Vietnam and Thailand for years. All of this is about strengthening supply chain resilience while keeping production efficient. And it's why Southeast Asia is poised to become a lynch point in the global PC ecosystem. According to United States Census trade data, Vietnam has become the second largest source of United States PC import with more than 20% share.
Wow, okay, that's some really great overall context. And, of course, the first half of this year has been dominated by the US tariff discussion, especially tariffs on China. And as we look ahead to H2, the situation remains quite uncertain. How have these shifting policies affected the pace of relocation from China?
In our recent PC supply chain report, we projected that Dell and HP will have enough non-China capacity to cover their United States PC shipment by the end of the year. And we expect other vendors to hit that milestone by next year at the latest. With tariff policy swing back and forth, this timeline is accelerating. HP, for example, announced on its latest earnings call in May that it plans to ship all United States PC demand offshore by mid-2025. Smaller players are also engaging ODMs to invest in non-China capacity to avoid losing competitiveness in the United States market. Meanwhile, Chinese ODMs haven't let the opportunity slip by. Several are establishing operations in Vietnam and beyond, leveraging competitive pricing and cost management strengths to win OEM orders. PC vendors are also tapping into Chinese assembly lines while still meeting country of origin rules to manage costs. The entire supply chain is evolving to navigate uncertainty, while Chinese ODMs and production will continue to be a key part of global PC supply chain. So, Ishan, considering the landscape evolution, what new opportunities and challenges do you see emerging for the PC industry?
Yeah, I think there's a few. In terms of opportunities, I think firstly, vendors and ODMs can start to build partnerships with local governments to then tap into subsidies, tax breaks, and streamline permitting. So all of these benefits could help them to lower the effective cost of new builds. Secondly, the expansion of new facilities gives vendors better access to markets with really high growth potential. So here I'm thinking places like India, the Middle East, and the ASEAN countries. So if they're able to embed production closer to demand there and then build out the complementary sales channels, they can find some avenues for new growth. On the challenges side, firstly, allocating between factories in and out of China will require vendors to expand their capabilities. This would include more sophisticated supply chain management, real-time demand visibility, multi-tier inventory buffers, and dynamic sourcing, all to be able to respond quickly as policies or logistics change. Second, more diversified production sites can actually end up being less efficient. So traditionally, ODMs concentrate really large volumes at one site and then leverage the economies of scales that they get in infrastructure and resources. So looking ahead, PC vendors and the ODMs are going to have to find a balance that manages risks against costs. Then finally, labor culture and even workforce skills vary widely between countries. So China's temporary worker system and their intermediary networks have been key resources that OEMs use to handle seasonal demand swings. But those practices are not necessarily applicable or even legal elsewhere. So this will force OEMs to adopt more sort of complex management approaches. So overall, yeah, there's been a lot of upside and downside risk for vendors to navigate.
That's all we have time for. If you would like to find out more on this topic, do get in touch.